System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city love.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. It's Friday, December 19th. I'm Amin TMK alongside Amoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. Happy Friday. The last month of the year.
Right.
Friday.
See my little fro trying to stand up and shit. You gotta stop, man.
They're gonna return. The return of, look, man, it's always about growing long hair. No matter what happens, there's going to be awkward moments. The awkward phase never ends, right? Anyway, this is why I keep my hair short now. Y'all know. I keep my hair.
Y'all don't even know what a young Targaryen was looking like back in the day. I'm just here to tell you, man.
That's not what the people come for. They come for politics, man.
They don't give a fuck about what's happening in the world, and we have bigger numbers. Like and subscribe. See, I remembered. Like and subscribe, y'all. It's really important. The algorithm is not going to help us. Only you can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
It would be thirstily beautiful if it helps, for those of y'all that's into that kind of hedonistic bullshit.
Yes, but we know that y'all come for the geopolitics. It's not, but there's got to be some joy and love in what we do because it's a crazy world and it's crazy things that we have to deal with every day. So let's have a good time best we can. But is dire straits. Peacetime is over, as you know. Tanky, it was good while it lasted. And I wanted to jump back a little bit into talking about Palestine and Gaza and the Holocaust there. As you know, there was sort of this idea. The media had decided that it's a ceasefire. You know what I mean? Even though we know that that's foolish to believe. I'm going to bring there in a moment. But I do want to just acknowledge, and I want to show this to the people so we can see, because this is from Ahmad Shameya 995. He's saying, breaching the ceasefire again. The Israeli army bombed a shelter in the Tufa neighborhood in Gaza. 7 Palestinians were killed. Others were injured, including children. So there's nothing that's changed, right? Like, it's still kind of like the elephant in the room all the time when we're talking about politics. And we were discussing this a little bit earlier today. Sort of at the end of the day, Palestine still is such a focal point amongst all politics because the, kind of mask off of the Western world. You have major conflicts at any given time that can pop off in Iran. Venezuela seems to be at the edge of a knife. And it's really been, kind of the precedent that was set by America and the Israelis with the genocide in Palestine, which is actually not stopped. There is not been any ceasefire in terms of a lasting and meaningful ceasefire. Flooding in Gaza has been really bad over the past few weeks, and the shelters are not equipped for it, and there's not enough aid through. And everyone knows it. And if you look, as we always say, Palestine is a litmus test. Of course, there are many. Palestine, we talked about this on our last broadcast, bro, and we mentioned it with Maduro when he left the polling station, and he had a message for the people. We said, free Palestine. When Machado's presidential candidate got out, Israel has the right to defend itself. And I bring Machado up again, the Peace Prize winner, because also she's made these claims that Hamas is in Venezuela. Just a truly ridiculous claim. And it kind of seems like at the end of the day, they want to access of evil it, right? It's Russia, it's China, it's Iran, and anybody connected to those people are evil and they're bad. And at the end of the day, China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran is the biggest supporter of Palestine. So those 4 countries who are large supporters of Palestine are looked at as the villainous axis of evil returning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they have to be made to be the villains, right? I think what you said about the ceasefire is a perfect example. I think, for all intents and purposes, a better way for Americans and Westerners to think about the ceasefire is really to think more about it as in terms of an opportunity was provided, you know what I'm saying, to the Gazan resistance to return the rest of the Israelis. That's what you need to think about it more as, right? Not really like a cessation of hostilities, but a televised pause. We're going to stop bombing you, right? Just long enough for you to give us the rest of the hostages. And it will make it a low intensity thing from then on out. Because that's certainly what it's been. It hasn't ended. And you have to ask yourself, why use this language, right? Because the Israelis are not confused about what's happening. The goal has never ceased. It's not controversial to say the Israelis don't want to have any Palestinians in the Levant. That's just plain and simple. I remember the quote from Golda Meir, who, by the way, was the first woman prime minister of Israel, born in Kyiv, Ukraine. She was the fourth prime minister of Israel. And she said, we'll never forgive the Palestinians for making us have to kill their children. Like, that's what she said. You know what I'm saying? Like, those aims have not changed. The Israelis haven't become more compassionate, right? And, you know, I know you're going to bring up, you're going to show the clip with Ursula von der Leyen talking about the inherent Europeanness, you know, of the Israelis. I think that's a perfect example of it. You know, Golda Meir, right, was born in Kyiv. I mean, it ties to everything that's happening right now. When people ask, why do we talk about the Kievan Rus situation so much? It's because it's so inextricably tied to so many other geopolitical contests that are happening right now. You have to understand, even though the United States is in conflict often, they're normally able to dictate terms of the cessation of hostility. Even in places like Vietnam, you know, or Afghanistan, they're like, we're going to leave on these days. You know, this is what's going to happen. These are the transitions that are going to happen. And we're going to leave. That's not what's happened in Kyiv. The United States can't set the terms, right? Trump has tried to set terms for the better part of the year. It doesn't stop until the Russians say it stops. Because the Russians said, don't get this shit started. You know, you're not going to like what happens, you know, and the Americans can't control that. Israel ties into all of that, right? It hasn't stopped. The Americans and the Israelis 100% control when this Palestinian conflict will start and it will stop. It's so short-sighted to look at it as an October 7th reaction, because these things, then what were they reacting to on October 7th, right? Did this just come out of a vacuum? Like one day a bunch of Palestinians woke up and they're like, fuck it, I'm tired of this shit. Right? I mean, yes, but not without. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, right. But like not from a vacuum. Like this is a response, right? Right or wrong, whether or not you want to condone the reaction, the United Nations has held in international law that an occupied people have the right to use military force to defend themselves. And that's what happened. If it was Shangri-La, why did they feel the need to rebel at all? You know, and that's not happened. It won't stop, because at the end of the day, it's not about even South Africa, right? Where you know, all of the Boers can just start living with the native indigenous. No, you have a religious mythology that's tied up in all of this, right? And because of the way that the Zionist Israelis sees themselves, there's no room at all for anything other than them. You know, and that's not even just against anti-Palestine. They do the same thing when Ethiopian Jews come up. They're called Kushis. You know what I'm saying? Which is a fancy way of, not even a fancy way. It's an Israeli way of saying nigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's how they are. They want to be a religious ethno state, where only the Ashkenazi are comfortable, only the Ashkenazi are prioritized or privileged, because there was a time, okay, and it's probably not 2025, okay, it certainly won't be 2026, but there was a time, and maybe that time was 1948, where the Ashkenazi could have lived in peace with the Palestinians. The Palestinians offered them safe harbor from the Holocaust that was happening, right? But that was not convenient because as most of the problems in the West go, it was a birth rate issue. I think it would have been just fine if the Ashkenazi were out producing the Palestinians, right? But they were not. The Palestinians were out producing the Ashkenazi into an alarming rate, something like 4-1, 5-1, right? And so they knew if there was a one-state solution, it would and they even say it, there wouldn't be a Jewish state because their birth rates are threatened. Even though they can pull Ashkenazi from all over the world to fill those numbers whenever they want, people don't want to live in Israel. Because people understand, like as a Jew, I understand I don't want to have no parts of what's going on in Israel to create an Israel. If I have to kill people to have the land, I don't want it. I'd rather just be oppressed in America.
Yeah, you mentioned the Vanderline video. I had it set up. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then maybe we can talk about it a little bit more.
Is European history. Jewish culture is European culture. And Jewish life must be able to flourish for Europe to flourish fully. This is something which is enshrined in our European Union. And this work starts with safety and security, particularly for places of worship.
Yeah, and I had showed it to you earlier, and I had already talked about it and posted it a little bit, but I think it goes back to this idea again where it's like, yeah, it's about white supremacy, and Israel is a white. It
always has been.
They have talked about this over and over again, and they can't escape it, and they want to. That they were sterilizing East Africans when they were trying to enter in to their country. That's just evil, man. And they can't escape them.
Right, under the auspices of vaccination, by the way.
Yeah, and we're expected to believe that the medical industry is always supposed to have, the highest standard for human rights and human care and ethics. But we see stuff like this happen all the time. That's why it's just difficult to accept and believe what the medical industry is. And look, I don't go too far. I'm really I'm a modern medicine type of person, but I get why people move away from it. And I understand
100%.
Why those things are scary. But I think, again, it kind of goes back to, just back to Vanderline, is that it's about Europe is full of white people, and it's full of the people. And this is Europe just has this issue that they just don't want to acknowledge how incredibly racist this is. And Palestine is full of all. I mean, look, there are white Palestinians, there are brown Palestinians, and there are black Palestinians, but for the most part, they just view them all other. They view them as Muslims, even though there are many Christians, even Jewish Palestinians.
Right.
And they use them like Hamas is now used as the new Al-Qaeda or Taliban. It's just this boogeyman, even though they're all very different, very different. But to the average American, I assume they're all the same. So again, I just brought up the Machado thing with her, talking about Hamas is in her country, Hamas this, Hamas that. It just goes back to that racism, that anti-Muslim sentiment, because they know that the Arab world and Islam is a threat to Western hegemony. It's a threat to capitalism. And that's why Palestine has remained a huge talking point for everyone. And I know this is about Palestine, but I did want to mention this because, Lavrov, he's been making a lot of time. And we talk about Lavrov. He's the Secretary
Foreign Minister.
Russia, yeah. Foreign Minister.
Yeah.
They do similar
Russia.
things.
Right.
And he was saying the whole world except for Europe has condemned the actions in the Caribbean and northern South America. The rest of the world is not having any discussions about what's going on in Venezuela in terms of the intervention there. And we even have Machado. Again, I hate to keep bringing her up, but it's just hilarious. This is the woman who is the freaking Peace Prize winner. Just to show you the unreality of life. And she's literally on there and she's like, it's not a regular regime change, guys. It's not like that type of regime change.
She called it an act of love. She's bombing the country. I'm serious. She said bombing the country is an act of love. And like the reporter was like, and they be playing along, but even the reporter's like, what? You brought up Ursula von der Leyen, and it brings up a wonderful point. Back in the ancient times when we were told that Iran was 3 months away from a nuclear bomb, back when Ahmadinejad was the president, which goes, by the way, all the way back to the Bush years. Ahmadinejad said, if the Holocaust happened, why is it the Palestinians' problem to fix? And they turned him into this huge Holocaust denier. Again, I'm not here to advocate for Ahmadinejad or advocate against him.
Are you good over there, man?
Is it me?
I hear a bunch of sirens.
Hey, they ain't gonna get me.
What's going on in your neighborhood, bro? They're coming to get you, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's a lot going on.
I'm a slide. I'm a slide. But yeah. Well, you start talking about Ahmadinejad, in Washington, D.C.
They come get you, right?
Saying? Yeah, this motherfuckers are, But yeah, right. So again, when that happened, what he's saying is not very far from what Ursula von der Leyen is saying. He's saying these are Europeans. So why are these Europeans who were abused by Europeans thrust upon the Arab world, thrust upon the Muslim world? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, from a grown-up point of view, talk about things like right of return. When does it end? Because no one really believes that outside of a romantic, religious context. Because again, it's those Republicans and those Democrats, by the way, that talk about Israel's right to return forever. They never have any. They're so anti-immigration in the United States, it's painful. Well, what about the indigenous Americans' right to return? What about the Mexican Americans' right to return? Since Mexico, with Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, all of that was Mexico. So what about their right to return, right? They don't believe these things. They simply say them about the Israelis because you have this romanticized, what I'm saying? But again, I don't want religion making geopolitical considerations, and that's just the bottom line. So if you want to say they were in Israel 2,000 years ago, that's quite a statement when you won't let Mexicans. My grandfather was
there 100 years ago, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, this
right?
is silly. Don't be silly.
And your grandfather, not you, but, people like Mr. Malachowski were in Poland or Ukraine, right? You were in Estonia. That's where you were. You weren't in the Levant. You weren't. There were Jews that were there, but they don't look like Ashkenazi people. And they're not celebrated.
The people that were there, it's just like, I don't know, maybe this is crazy, that the Levant has always been a place where multiple religions come together and celebrate the
and kill each other
relevancy. No, it's not supposed to be like that again. And I will say this too, because they want to act like Palestinians weren't there. That 120 years ago they were the Ottomans. No, they were the Palestinians who lived under the rule of the Ottomans. Yeah. And the Palestinians have been there and been there and been there. And yes, they've been under the rule of other people, but the indigenous Palestinians that are there have been there now for 2,000 years or whatever.
Yeah.
That's sort of the whole thing. And
they act like it was illegal to be Jewish in the Levant before the establishment of Israel. And it's just patently ahistorical. Like, as a Jew, I'm telling you, Jews have always lived in the Levant. Not all of them and not as a nation state, but individually, there has been pockets of people that claim the Jewish faith and the Jewish identity for thousands of years. If you were in Poland, you could have been in the Levant. You chose not to.
Palestinians, it's a religion, man.
There it is.
It's not an ethnicity, man. When you go
not
to the mosque.
Not in an easy to point down kind of like, oh, this is DNA kind of way.
Look, I'm just saying this. If I go to the mosque, Okay, I'm gonna go to the mosque in DC. I might go to the one out northwest. It's very beautiful. Has all the flags up. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna see some cornflake white boys in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Ready to pray. Okay. It's not an ethnicity thing. And, you know, they always want to tie Arabs and Islam. It's the biggest country. What country has the most Muslims? Indonesia, not in the Middle East. What country has the highest percentage of Muslims?
Pakistan.
What country has the highest percentage of Muslims? Not Saudi Arabia. No, not Pakistan. Senegal. Senegal has the highest percentage of Muslims, 95%.
Okay.
So I'm just saying.
Blown. See what I'm saying? It's you dropping game on me.
You think it's all about Arabs, and it's not. Islam is a global. It reminds me of Khabib when he was fighting Conor, and he goes, "Alhamdulillah." I know you guys don't like this. Alhamdulillah. This is the issues that they got with Palestinians because look, a man like Khabib, and we're UFC fans. He's a global star now. I think most people have heard of him, but I guarantee you, his politics is focused on Palestine. When they win their fights, they talk about Palestine because again, the rest of the global South is looking at what's happening, and they go, "The West's mask is off. Look at the Holocaust they helped perpetuate." And make happen in Gaza. That what we're trying to say is still in the process of happening. Not much has changed, because
the end goal hasn't changed. Like this is, you know what I'm saying? I mean, back to the point of Golda Meir, the end goal hasn't changed. There are still Palestinians in the Levant, millions of them. You know, this type of, if it were ever to change, it wouldn't change until there were like 50,000 Palestinians. Then all of a sudden, if ever, that will be the moment when the Israeli government will be like, oh, you know what? There's no need for a 2.2 state. You know, them old governments was tripping. You could come be part of Israel, free votes, right? Because you'll be at a minority number, whereas you no longer threaten, right, the hegemony of the ethno-state. Once that population has been depleted and I hate to sound so clinical about it, but this is the way the Israelis think. You know what I'm saying?
But
like,
if you think about it this way too, you know, like, first of all, a lot in the 40s, a lot of the rich families left Palestine. In 60s, a lot of the rich families left Palestine. In the mid 2000s, a lot of those families left Palestine. So who's left? People who the poorest, the people who have the least connection to the old families. Remember, I always tell you, they always want to be, they won't be connected to the old families, the old tribe that's still there in the Arab world. The people left there are some of the poorest Palestinians. Right. There's some of the
they couldn't leave. They couldn't afford to
have
leave.
The opportunity.
Right.
Look, of course, I'm Palestinian. I live in the diaspora. My family had enough to leave, in the 60s. And people stay, and it all goes. That's why there's a huge diaspora, for Palestine. But that's what it is. That's the reality of what's happening in Palestine. And that's why those people are not giving up, and that's why it's so, the war so intense. And we talked about this earlier too with Vietnam. Those people don't have nowhere else to go. This is their house. This is their home. This is their land. They'll fight to the death. Now, to do another UFC comparison, Bryce Mitchell, again, lot of conflicting ideologies.
Complicated human being.
But one of the things that he did mention when he talked about not wanting to fight in Ukraine is he's interested in defending his homeland. American soldiers do not defend their homeland, even though they say that.
And have it.
Going somewhere.
And have it since the Civil War.
But Russia's defending their homeland.
Right.
China,
the war is
Iran,
real personal for them.
Venezuela, right? They're defending
real
their
personal
homeland.
for them. Yeah.
And that's not something that America does. They defend their homeland. There's no one fighting you, man. You are the offense.
And again, for the people in the comments, it's going to be like, oh, America defended itself in World War II. Wrong. They didn't. First off, Hawaii is not America. Even before it became a state, right? It didn't consider itself part of America. And when it was attacked in World War II, Pearl Harbor, it wasn't even a state. I mean, it would be like going to World War II and we'd be like, oh, someone attacked Puerto Rico. Someone attacked Guam. These are territories. These are not.
They're military bases.
They're military bases.
It's not a civilian operation. Not to mention, like, man.
Right. But like war, that's not 9/11. War. America hasn't known war since the Civil War. You know who knew war? Atlanta. Burned to the ground. That's war, right? And the thing I will remind every American that watches this show, when Sherman went into Atlanta, he said to himself, why should I treat them any different than we have treated the Native Americans? Because he was in the army. He's out west doing this. What he's doing in Atlanta is what he's been doing his entire military career. You know, guys like Custer, you know, before they died, that's what they did. They went into the, you know, so when they bring war, when the Americans bring war, it's nothing quite like it. But war has not been in America in quite some time. You know, and so we as a people have become desensitized. People are anti-war as an intellectual position, like us, right? But there are people anti-war because they've been in war. They've seen what it looks like. They've seen the destruction that comes from it. There's nothing that humans do that's quite like war. There's nothing. It's not romantic. It's not valorous. It's not heroic. It's not sexy. It's just murder on an institutional level. Nobody's ready for that. The human brain can't really rationalize what it is, you know?
Yeah. You know, and yeah, well said, man. And that's what we're trying to fight against. I mean, that's why we are involved in activism. It's about saving lives, saving people. You know, it's about ending the wars. There's no need to be wars. But again, when you said, look, man, this is colonialism. This is imperialism. I take your shit. Yeah, you got some nice stuff. Let me get your rubber. Let me get your rare earth minerals. Let me get your oil. That mask off, you know, and that's just,
I'll buy it
again
at exactly this price. And if you don't sell it at exactly this price, I'll take your shit.
Yeah.
But we the beacons of liberty. Stop. That whole propaganda got to go. There's no reasonable excuse for a person to believe that way and then to justify what's about to happen in Venezuela. That's just the bottom line. This is a country that has not threatened the United States. That is no military match for the United States. Again, you don't even have to like Venezuela. I'm not saying you got to like it. I'm saying you have to acknowledge they're not a threat to the United States of America.
And they're bullying Puerto Rico, which again, there's no reason Puerto Rico should be a part of America. None. It should be its own sovereign nation. And
this is the most attention Puerto Rico's got in 50 years. America cares now because it's a staging ground.
Not when their electric grid has been shot for the last decade. Worse and worse. Not to mention Trinidad and Tobago.
Now when hurricanes come through.
Yeah, no. Trinidad and Tobago, another one. I'm going to go ahead and say, you're okay with us killing those fishermen. That's what I want you to say. You know, and again, you can make whatever decision you want. Trinidad and Tobago has no ability to push back in. And
Venezuela, the Venezuelan military, they acknowledge that Trinidad and Tobago are being treated like unsinkable aircraft carriers. And where else have we heard this before, right? This was Mao talking about Taiwan and why Taiwan is important to the West. It has nothing to do with Taiwanese independence at all. They could give a fuck about the average Taiwanese person.
Don't be naive, guys.
Come on.
Don't be naive, man. That's about power and money and force projection and all and
power and money,
for goodness sake.
All the cookies, they're playing for everything. The great game is happening. And in any game, people just mostly gonna die.
Ah, man, that's a fact. Let's go ahead and wrap it here. Let's give a big shout out to our podcast listeners. We love you guys. I don't want it to seem as if we're always saying like and subscribe. We just more of a budding YouTube channel. When we know our podcast listeners have been around for damn near getting close to a decade.
Y'all the real OGs. Don't tell the YouTuber.
Y'all the real
motherfuckers.
OGs. Don't tell the YouTubers. But like, subscribe, and comment if you're here on YouTube. And I know a lot of our YouTube following is from our podcast, so we appreciate y'all. And we're getting close to 800 subscribers. We're getting close and taste it. So let's get there. Shout out to our patrons, patreon.com/InnerCityLeft. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins. Booyaka Shot right there. Link in the description. Amoja TMK, Lil Tanky, anywhere you find music. We doing it, man. We bunch of radical artists talking geopolitics. What can I say? I'm not trying to, horn my own toot. I'm just saying we out here doing it, man. What did I miss? What did we miss? What are your final thoughts?
Man, I miss peacetime, man. Let's get that peacetime back.
Hopefully peacetime will return, but I don't.
It's a wild week, man. When the FIFA World Peace guy, you know what I'm saying, and the Nobel Poet Laureate, I'm sorry, not Poet Laureate, the Nobel Laureate winner, Peace Prize is all like, yeah, let's bomb this place. That's what I think peace is.
War, dummy.
You do it for love, man. I can't even make jokes about it. And I can make a joke about anything.
Yeah. But look, I mean, what can we do?
Tell the
we
truth.
Laugh at the ridiculous.
Shame the devil.
The truth. That's all we can do. We're just two people, two handsome girls ourselves, in the good way. Anyway, for Amoja, Lil Tanky Sumner, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.